something hello, right? The question is, how can I use this? So if it is a string, how can I use this for a as you know that string is a object, which means object can have any number of, it is not a finite set of values which you have, right? Which means it can take any number of characters, which means it is not making a finite set of figure here, so which means you cannot use this for. So in order to use a string to compare all these things and all, so we have something called enums. So you'll be learning this in cursors of a Java concepts, right? When you actually come to cursors, so I'll again explain you how to use cursors for a switch conditions, right? Again, if you have some idea on enums, so you will be checking out how a string can be converted into enum in order to use switch. So we'll come to that, and that is very important, and you will be using more of them in real time applications, because you will never have direct values, or will never have direct enums in here, right? Sometimes you have to make sure to convert a string or a int, or let us say float, some things, right, to actually make use of switch. So we'll be coming to that part when it actually come to something like cursors, right? Now let me just
Srinath, I have a question here.
sure.
Yeah, if you can please explain the concept of enums, where we use it and how we use it and what they are.
Okay, so you want me to explain enums now itself, because I have to explain this in cursors actually. Okay, not a problem. So
Okay, okay,
enums,
no problem. You can do it then.
sorry.
It's okay. You can do it that time. I was just curious to know.
No. I'll
That's fine.
explain. I'll explain the complete concept of enums, because you have to know enums. What is enum, right? Because this is the one of the class being provided in Java, which is used to create user-defined data types. Actually, I'll explain you the complete depth of enums. Don't worry about that. Yeah. Okay, Prakriti.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, if you want to give me a quick recap, I mean, or a quick uh, topic on this, actually we use enums actually to define user defined data types with some constants actually, right? That's why once you actually learn oops, right, then when I use enums, you will understand this better actually. So that's why we'll use that later, right? Fine. Let me just
Sure.
say controls. Let me just create a program here. Okay, let me just say main and try catch, right? Okay, let me just give you a small example of enum, which is enum, right? I'll just take something as type num, some name here, right?
Srinath,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, Balaji.
Balaji here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you checked with Shiva.
Yeah, I've checked with Shiva actually. I've already pinged him, but he was
Do
he was
just
off.
just
Yeah.
just type the number below so that I'll follow up with him
I don't
in
have
the
his
chat
number
window.
actually. I always call him with this. I don't have his phone number
Okay,
actually.
okay,
Yeah, that was a problem. Otherwise, I would have called
oh,
him actually. I don't have his.
okay, okay.
Yeah. I'll try to get his number, right, so
Re-
that I can follow it up with him, right?
okay, fine, right.
Yeah. So here, let me take it as some even, comma, odd. So why I am defining this as this, and you learn this syntax when we come to enum. I'm just giving you a small heads up here, right? Public, just say void get case something, some method I'm taking, and let me just take it as some. Again, you can use this enum here, which is type num. I can use directly, as we are defining something called int, right? I is equal to 0. I'm sorry, int I is equal to 0. In the same way, you can take your type num as a user defined data type, and let me just say some e here, right? And let me say switch, right, e. So if you type in e, which is my case here, right? So when you go to case, click on control space, you will be getting both the enums, either even or case or, right? These are we, right? because your enum is direct one, and each and every item in enum will be saved as a different numbers here, is d0 1 and all, which is again a constant, right? So that's why your enums can be used in more to define a switch actually. So that's why I just said enum here, or here it is satisfying the condition that it should be a tag or a number type, right? And obviously enum is something which is a tag or an enum type. So whenever you say tag, you can also use something called boolean here, because it will have some true or false, only two finite values, right? So in this way you can actually use, just say sys out, right, of something here even, and it will go and print that, right? So this is how it works actually, your switch, right? And this is how enum is, and where you are using. So if you want to use get case here, which is static here, right, get case type, you can see here that if I do type here type num, you can actually pass the type of your enum you want, right? Where you have to define enums at one place and you can access from anywhere, right? So that is what enum is. And what happens here is maintenance will be very easy. Let us say you have some 100 constants, 100 conditions, right? You just have to maintain in one enum, so respective to that your conditions will be replaced, fine. So that is how your enum works. So in this case, when I just call this function get case, right, when I pass even, it will automatically go here and trigger this and print even, right? Just see that. Fine. Is it compiling my thing? Okay, so that's how it works, right? And we'll understand more enums when we actually come into cursors, where we'll be learning much depth of this and what are the different types, or we just define something. You can also write functions in enum, you can also define some standards in the enums, right? We'll be checking out that later, right? So let's move on to the next topic, which is looping statements. Again, these are something which are control statements, but these are used to iterate through some part of code, right? So let us take for first, and the basic syntax of for is you have to use a for, which is again a reserved word or a keyword in Java. Again, reserved word as a keyword is nothing but a word which is understandable by a JVM, right? For you have something called here initialize semicolon, you have something called condition here semicolon, and you have something called increment or decrement here, right? So this is how the syntax of for works, right? And let me write an example for this, which is
Hello, Srinath.
yeah,
It's Prakriti here. I cannot hear you. Can you please speak up a little?
yeah, can you hear me now?
Over into your microphone because it's very hard to hear.
Okay, is this fine now? Because I'm I'm giving session through my headset actually. I'm not using my laptop's mic actually. So is this fine now? Hello?
Yeah, now it's fine.
Okay, fine. Sure. So here, let me just use for, actually for the complete syntax of for which we have seen till now, which is for initialize condition all, you can just directly use Eclipse, where you can just say control space, it will give you all the possibilities of for, right? Let me take it this, which is your condition, your direct for here. Now here this part of story is called as the initialization, which means you want to run some part of code. Let us say I want to run system sys out, right, for sys out when I say hello for 5 times, let us say, right? So this part is called as initialize, and you say condition here. So I is again you are defining it here itself. I say I less than 5, let us say, which means I want to iterate or loop on through this for loop for 5 times, and your I plus plus, right? So now how this loop works is, whenever your compiler hand comes over here, the first ever you know entity triggered is your initialization. So this initialization is triggered only once in the whole for loop life cycle, right? So when your compiler comes here, your initialization is being done, right? And then when it says I is equal to 0, then it will check a condition whether I is less than 5. Yes, I is 0 and it is less than 5. It will come in and says hello, right? And your loop will come back here, and whenever it comes back to this loop again, it will go to the increment or decrement. Increment or decrement is nothing but incrementing the value with a 1 or anything. You can also say I plus 2 or I plus plus, or I can also say I is equal to I plus 2, sorry, right? So where you are incrementing your value by something, right? So which means you are incrementing, so for every iteration you are incrementing I with 2, right? You can do that. Or let me just increment with 1, I plus plus is 1. You will understand I plus plus and all when we actually come to unary operators, right? So here what we are doing is we are just incrementing this. So whenever the first loop is done, it will come back, it will go to I plus plus, which means your I will become 1 now. So after that it will come here, it will check whether your I is less than 5 or not. Yeah, it is less than 5. It will come back again, print back again I plus plus. Now your I becomes 2, right? Yes, 2 is less than 5, come back, print. Go back again, 3 is less than 5, print. Go back again, now it becomes 4, print. Now it becomes 5, 5 is less than 5 is false, then it comes out. So which means your this particular statement will be printed for 5 times. Let me just say plus I here, which is hello. I'll just print that, right? And let me run this up here. Yeah, you can see here, right? It says hello 0 because we have started with 0, and we are looping on with this statement multiple times, which is this hello 1 2 3 4 and all. Fine. So this is nothing but your for loop. Here you have where you will be using 3 terms here, which is 3 expressions here, which is initialize, right, condition and increment or decrement stuffs, right? So now you have one more thing in here, which is an advanced for loop, which is in Java here, which is nothing but for each you have. So we have already seen arrays, right, which is, let me take something as int I of, right, int I, or let me take array arr is equal to new int of some, let me take it as 4, right? So now when I say arr, which means I can assign values to this, right? Let me use the for loop to assign some values. Let me use the same for loop to print the values. Let me just say here int I is equal to 0 and I less than. So I less than, I have to fill until the length of this. Let me take arr here, arr dot length, right? So what I'll do, I'll just say arr of I, because so the whole array passes through an index. So here anyways I'm starting from 0 and going till the length till length minus 1, which is only I'm using only less than, right? So let me say is equal to I. So in this part of story I'm just assigning the values to it, right? So let me write one more for loop here for, and let me print that value sys out of, let me just say arr of I, right? So here I'm just assigning this. So let me write sys out assigning values, right? And let me just say printing values, right? Now let me run this up. Now you can see assigning values, right? It is assigning each and every value to this, where it is loading, from 0 to something called 3 here, and whenever we say print values, it is printing all the values out, right? So these are we use for loop for arrays. Now there is one more advanced for loop which we have in Java, which is for each, right? For each syntax is, it's for each, right? For each is nothing but, if you have an array of integers, which means that in that array each and every item will be an integer, right? you call it as integer. For each integer, let me take as x colon, colon in the sense in some set, right? Your set can be an array here. So let us use this in here and you will understand better. So now for printing values, let me use for each. Let me just delete this, or let me just comment it out first, right? And let me just say for each. If you type in for each, it will give you the iterator, right? This is iterator. You can also use for each, or if you use colon here, it will automatically know that you are using for each, right? Not a problem. And let me take int x here, which means int x in each ARR. Let me just print that this out of some x. Let me just give you that and explain. Here, see, you can get the same thing. Now, what is the difference between the for and for each is this. So, if you can see here, I am iterating through each and every index over here, right? I am iterating through ARR of I and I am printing that. But here in for each, it is getting each and every value directly from array, right? When you have 0, 1, 2 and 3, it when my compiler comes here, which means it is asking for first value in ARR. For each x, first value of x in ARR, it will take out print. Next, when it comes back here and when it goes back to the loop again, it is taking the second value, because internally it contains a pointer which is pointing to each and every value. So, for each iteration it goes to first, second, third, fourth, and it comes out where you are getting the direct value of it. So, this is how it is, and you will be using for each mainly for collections. So, when we come to actual collections topic, you will be there, it will be very, it will be useful in a part of collections. Again, collections are nothing but advanced topics of arrays. We will be running that, right? But this is the syntax of your for each, right? You can use any one of them, but for each is faster than your for loop, because in for loop you are tracing through each and every memory location, which is an index here, right? But here you are actually touching upon your value here, which is more faster than your for, right? That is nothing but your for loop. And you have something called while here. Again, while works in a same way, which is uh, this. I mean, the syntax of while is almost same like this, but it takes only something called condition here. Condition, and you have flower bracket open and close, right? Which is this, right? So here let's write a program for while here. So let us take the same thing here, and so in this array, so we have assigned some values, right? Let me print the values using while here, right? So here if you can see the difference between this, so your while will contain only condition and nothing else, right? So where and for there is a initialization and increment decrement or something. So these things are increment decrement, or these things are something which is used for making your loop finite, right? Making your loop finite in the sense, if while loop, if you are using something here, which means you are making your for end sometime. Now you have something called for loop, which is finite for loop or infinite for loop. So how can you write an infinite for loop? If I write this for just semicolons and just give something, it will never stop. It will never stop ending up this. I'll just show you that. Let me say int some s is equal to 0, and just say s is equal to s plus plus, and just say sys out of s. So this loop here is nothing but an infinite loop, right? Let me just run this and see what happens. See here, it will never stop. It is continuously taking the values, right? Let me just stop here and just say s is equal to s plus 1. Right. And this up. See here, it will never stop. It will be going continuously, right? So for infinite loops, you have to kill your process directly, and if there is no process, it won't be stopping at all, right? So you have to stop your process, so then it will be stopping. So that is nothing but your infinite for loop. In the same way, let us first check out how to print the values of array using while, right? Again, while syntax is the same. While you'll be using, sorry, while we have some opening and closing brackets, and here you have to give some condition here. Let me just take s is less than something called arr dot length, right? So we want to run until this is less than here. So here we are using initialization out of my loop, and I'm just using my condition here, right? So what we'll do, we'll just say sys out of arr of s, which is, anyways it is starting from 0. Where it comes in, it says yes, 0 is less than 4, which is 4 is the size of array, and it comes in, it prints arr of 0, which is first value, right? And after that, let me make s plus plus, which is I'm just incrementing my s with 1, right? So now here this is same as my for now. Initialization part is done at the outside. Condition I'm checking over here, right? And my increment or decrement is being done here, right? Let me just run this. You can see the same output over here, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to use the same initialize or condition or anything else here. So you can also use this in some other way, right? If you don't want to use something like this, right, you can just say, you can just give some flag here. You can use just some flag here, which is boolean, right? Let's say is done, some is done, let me take it as true here or false here first, right? So I'm just defining a variable here, which is done. I'm just taking a flag. Now I'll just say until it is false, until it is false done. So inside that, what I'll check is, I'll check if s is less than arr dot length, which is same again. But what you are doing is, you are not I'll say break. So a break is something which will actually break your loop here, which means if it is in for loop, again if you use break at one condition, it will be breaking at that level of your compilation, right? And here in while, I'm using that if s is less than my arr dot length, which is 4. If it is less than 4, just get out. Let us run this up, right? It just printed 1. Why? We should say it as is done. It came in s plus 1 is less than, I'm sorry, if it is greater than or equal to, right? Because we have to run this until it is until it is 4. Now you can get it, right? Now you can get the value, because when it comes, when you're, let me just debug this, you will understand much better, right? Now debugging is, you can do debugging in Eclipse using this debug controls, right? So when you debug it out, right here, yeah, your debug point came here. Now see, this is what I was talking about. When I say compiler comes here, right, this is what it is. So your debug compiler is here now. Now let us see what is the value of s here. If you just hover to this, you can see s value is 0, right? And your array values are this 0 1 2 3, right? Which means when I say arr of 0, which means it will print my 0th index, which is, let me just say f6 is to move. Now your 0 got printed, right? Now I'm making s as s plus plus. S is 0. When I make it as s plus plus, now s become 1 now, right? So now I'm checking s is greater than my length. Length is, arr length is again something called 4, right? Now it is not greater, so it will go back to this. And here I'm saying isn't is false, right? Anyways, you can also make it true here. come back, you can see s is 1 here again, and it will print the first index 1, which is 1. It will make s plus plus, again check the condition, go back. Now s will become 2 here, so it will print the second index 1, increment. Now s will become something like 3 here, go back, print the third index 1. Now s will become 4. Now there is no fourth index 1, right? That's why we just checking 4 is greater than or equal to 4. Yes, it is. It will come to break and comes out. Right? This is how it prints. Now, or else what you can do here is, if it is greater than, you can just make is done, right? Is done is true, because so here what happens here is, it is running till your is done is false. So if it is not false, it will come out. Let me just run this up, right? You will get the same output. Fine. So this is how we use something called while loop, right? So the next one, which is do while, is again the same as while loop, but which you have do while here, right? It is same as your while loop, but the basic syntax of do while is do and while. Do something and then check the condition. So this is what the meaning of do while is, condition here, right? So which is do, because the basic difference between while loop and do while is, right, at least whatever statements you are defining here will be executed at least once, right? At least once, in the sense, so first it will come to do, it will execute that, then it will check the condition, right? So there will be some cases where you want to check your process checkings and all, right? At that point you can use something called do while. Let me use do while, and it is the same thing which is we are doing here. Let me just copy this again here and just say do here, where we are just checking and semicolon here, right? So we are just checking do, so it will come here, execute everything and increment this, and then we are checking something, right? So this is how it goes. Let me run this. You will be getting the same output, right? Do, it will come here, it will execute it at only it will execute at least once and then check the condition. So that is the difference between what is called as a while and a do while, right? And this is how you actually do something like loopings for some set of programs here, some set of logic. You loop through it and do some executions here, right? So that's how we use. Now in for loop we have seen something called infinite loop, right? Let us see how we can make your while infinite. So how to make that is, you can just say some condition which will never end. Let me just say true something and run this, which is, so when I say while true, what is true, we are not giving it as what is true, we are just giving some value which will never change, right? And that's it. We'll just say s, let me just increment this s, right, and just say s is out of s here. What it does is, it will directly try to increment this and print continuously, it will never stop. It is going so fast, right? Now this is your infinite loop of your while, fine. And if you want to kill this process, you have to kill it from here itself, or you have to kill it from your task manager, right? So that is how it works in an infinite loop and for loops. Now this is what we have, something called control statements, where we are using if, else, switch and do while for, right? So this is what we have, something called control statements in here, right? And what are the different advanced things in here, and how we can use them in our programming, fine. Any doubts in here, Prakriti, Purushottam and Raghunandan?
No, Shiran.
Hello. Yeah, I hope if you have a programming knowledge, I hope that you will be knowing all these things. But only thing is, at least you would have learned one new topic now, right, today, which is something. And Raghunandan, I hope it is clear for you, right? Because you're not
Yeah.
new. Yeah, and yeah. So let's wind up till here today, right? And we'll start oops from tomorrow, because for oops you have to learn something, data types and control statements, which you have done till today, right? And let's move on with an actual topics, which is oops from tomorrow, fine. Yeah, okay, then I'll see you guys tomorrow at the same time, fine. Okay, Purushottam, Prakriti, and Raghunandan.
Thanks, Shiva.
Yeah, have a nice day. Bye.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye.